Said yes, so we had to check the apartment, and we even tried to tell them that please, oh, that we love the house, we don't take it. At first, I wasn't really comfortable with it, but my husband was like, the house is fine because we're looking at since we just got into Spain, we're looking at renting an apartment that even if it is not um fully furnished, but let it have some things that would help us so that we don't start buying properties, and even if we would want to leave tomorrow, we will not be carrying those properties, especially when we are not moving to our own house. So we're just looking at a whole lot of things. So it depends on what you actually want. So the house had no TV, there was no chair, there was nothing. And we where the company housed us was fully serviced, fully furnished, and I was just a bit disappointed, but the house made sense. Yeah, it was cool, it was comfy. Like, okay, my husband was like, we just need to take this house because looking at it now, this week is our last week before the 30th day. I mean, gradually we would, if we continue like this and we don't get an apartment, and if we continue like this and we don't get an apartment, we would definitely overstay our welcome. But we had this keen spirit of, getting this apartment, and we were like, okay, we're trying to explain to the landlord's wife that we need to get this apartment, that we are ready. What the landlord told us was that the landlord and the wife, that they would send our details to their insurance, a third party that would verify like they will verify our identity before they can rent the house. And like, okay. Before then, they told us that there was someone before us because, like I mentioned, we went there an hour. We were like an hour earlier. So, an hour early rather. So we were like, okay. And then my husband was asking to use the restroom, and also there we saw the people that came. So I was not telling my husband that, okay, so these people that came to like check the house out, I later saw that the landlord and the wife, they were shaking them, they could communicate in Spanish and all. I was like, this house don't go. Not where anybody won't tell me because we were there and you were shaking and you're telling us about insurance, fine and good insurance. And I mean, you see someone that could communicate well in Spanish, and you're seeing someone that speaks a foreign language. Who would you give the house to? My husband was like, I shouldn't see that like that, that the man's wife understands English. I was like, okay, no problem. Then the next day, the house was no longer on Idealista. It was no longer listed there. So my husband had to reach out to the man. The man was like, no, that the insurance company has not gotten back to us and all. But we didn't relent. And one thing that stood, or one thing that we noticed, or one thing that, but we didn't relent. And one thing that made us to stand out was we were resilient. We just because we have someone that said, okay, let them give our details to the insurance, does not mean we've gotten the apartment. So we're still checking out different houses. So we also my husband also went to check out another apartment that is actually from one of the other agents, that the first house he went to see, that they just packed different random things there. And when he went there, he went to check the house. Yeah, he came back with the video. There was also another apartment in Getafe too that he went to check. So because most times whenever you have time to check out this apartment, you tend to like use one stone to kill two birds. You don't just go because you're working and you may not really have time. So if you can communicate with the agents if they'll be available, so you can just use a particular day or an hour to like check two or three houses, and you know. So my husband also came back with the video of the one in Getafe. It was that one that caught my attention. I was like, this house is so lovely. How much is it? My husband told me how much it was, and in fact, the agent called, and he was, not even the agent, yeah, the property agency, yeah, the lawyer called, and the lawyer was able to communicate well in English, because there was even one that told us that we have to get a guarantor.